Dear family and friends, for some time I wanted to create a document or a video of my mom's ravioli recipe. It's a pretty complicated process, so with the help of my son Mike, and provided the technical expertise and some great pictures from Denzi, my nephew, who took in Italy my mom's hometowns and stuff in 1972. I got together with my sister Mary and her daughter Pam and created this kind of a documentary of the ravioli making process. The majority of the video was made in December 2006, actually at Christmas time there, at my sister's house in Menlo Park in her kitchen. My mom was born in Italy in 1897, and it was a small village. The name of the village was San Francesco al Campo. She soon moved to a neighboring village, San Carlo Canavese, where she spent her childhood. And that little town was just on the outskirts of the pretty larger town. It's called Sadiat. The pictures that you'll see that Denzi took, he took some great pictures in Italy when he was visiting there, along with my uncle John in 1972, shows the two homes where my mom grew up, along with her 3 brothers and 3 sisters. At the age of 16, which at that time was 1913, she came to the United States. Behind me is a watercolor picture of the home in Atherton that we grew up in. And John Zanoni painted the picture, as a good friend of my brother Chuck. Here's a picture of my mom that was given to me by my wife Dixie. It's just a great rendition of her. My mom, in addition to being a great person and loved to entertain, was an excellent cook. And every holiday she would prepare a delicious meal. The major holiday, of course, would be raviolis. And I am hoping that by making this tape that more of us will carry on the tradition and tribute to her. So we'll move now into the video recording of how the process of making raviolis, and along with I documented a written recipe which was done with the help of my sister Mary, so it's hopefully pretty thorough and pretty self-explanatory. While the video is not top Hollywood quality, it came out pretty darn good. So I hope you will enjoy it.
Buy a beef roast, about 3 pounds, and that's the rump roast that I buy.
Oh, you buy a rump roast?
Rump roast for the filling, and it can be, if it's a little bigger, even though it's bigger than you can use, go ahead and get it if it's a good cut, and then you can always cut a piece off for you to use later on. But you want a nice piece.
And it's about what size? 3 pounds?
About 3 pounds.
Okay.
Yeah. And then you get a piece of pork roast. It's supposed to be smaller, but you cut off a lot of little pieces that you don't want in there when you buy the pork roast, so that's okay if it's a little bigger than the 3 pounds. And then you get a pound of the pork sausage, the Link pork sausage. And
so what brand are those?
New York style, I think they're called, pork sausage.
And where do you find those?
You get them in a package at Key Market.
Key Market, it's called New York style?
Yeah, pork sausage, and be sure you get the plain ones and not the one with the maple syrup or whatever. Because
Okay.
sometimes, you know, that's
You don't remember the brand, but it's New York stuff.
Yeah, there's not too much to select from.
Right. Did you also buy your meats at Key Market?
Key Market. I buy everything there now because they have good meat.
Oh, great.
Yeah, I like their meat.
Good.
Okay, so then you, well, ahead of time here I have cooked my beef and pork roast together in this pan.
Both pieces of meat in one pan?
In one pan.
Oh, in the oven?
In the oven, and that's good because they stay more juicy.
And maybe it melds the flavors together.
Yeah,
Ah,
and then
cool.
you put, of course, you put a few pieces of garlic in the roast and a few pieces of rosemary, you know, like Grandma used to do.
Okay.
Insert a couple of pieces.
And how long do you cook and what temperature?
Oh, well, 425 for about 15 or 20 minutes to get them started, and then you turn it down to 350 and cook it until they're done. Now, it depends. I cook this beef roast for about 2 hours because I don't want the pink juices for the raviolis.
I see.
And then I took it out, and then I cooked the pork a little longer because I feel like I want pork well done.
So you took the beef out?
To put it in a bowl, and then continued the pork roast.
Oh, okay.
And then you kind of watch the pan juices too. You don't want them to get too dark because then, you know, it's time to take the roast out if they get too dark.
Yeah.
But anyway, then I think I cooked the pork maybe about 25-30 minutes more. And you take a look, you can tell.
Sure.
And then what I did, I let them sit until they were really cooled down, and then I cut them in half to make sure the centers were well done.
Okay, so here we're looking at them right now.
Yeah, they're half.
cut in half and they look delicious.
Yeah.
So-
of course, you salt and pepper. Salt and pepper.
As it's cooking.
Well, I start them off with one side, salt and pepper. Then when I feel they should be turned, I salt and pepper the other side.
Oh, so you turn them halfway through the cooking process?
Well, whenever you think they should be
Okay.
turned over. Now, I think I forgot to tell you that after 425 for about 20 minutes, you turn the temperature down to 350.
Oh, good
Did I
point.
say that?
Maybe not, but that's okay. Go ahead and
Yeah.
repeat
I
it.
think you did. That's
Great,
good.
great idea.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so that takes care of the roast. And then the pork sausages, you separate them and put them in a pan with some, I use corn oil, and just enough so that they'll have enough to get started on, so you'll have some juices.
So kind of you want to saute those
Yeah, saute with the lid on.
with the lid on.
And low heat.
Low heat. In fact, Pam has got some going right now. We could take a look at that.
Yeah.
And so what she's got there are pork sausages. There happen to be a different variety, but she's making, what are you making?
I'm actually making chicken raviolis for my son-in-law who doesn't care for the beef right now. We're hoping to convert him eventually. So I have to do all of these steps with chicken.
I
And
see.
turkey.
Oh, okay, great. So now we'll go back to the
Pork.
pork sausages.
Okay, put the lid on it,
Uh-huh.
and slowly, and then kind of watch them, and then when they're brown, turn them over and to the other side.
Okay.
And keep the lid on. And when they're nice and brown, well, not too brown, but brown, then you feel they're done. Just turn off the heat, and you're going to save those juices to cook for another step.
Later on.
Filling later on. Yeah.
Now, these are the juices here that came out of the pork roast?
Came out of the beef and pork roast.
I see.
And,
Oh, wow.
They were in the fridge all night, so I was able to skim off some of the fat on top. But I'm saving the fat for, in case I don't have enough fat from the sausages, I can add that because it's good fat.
And these are the way the sausage come out. And it looks like you
Yes.
had about
A package, about a pound.
about a pound. I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
And, yeah.
Okay, so that looks like the meat ingredients that are going to go into the filling. Is that what we're
Yeah,
doing?
that's the meat.
Okay.
Okay. Now, we
Now-
gotta do
Okay, what's the next step with the meat?
the next step with the meat. We have to cut it up in chunks for the grinder.
Ah, so it's going to be ground.
Yeah,
Oh,
but
here's
we take, if there's anything that's undesirable, like grizzling, is that called grizzling?
Gristle.
Gristle.
Yes.
You cut that away so you don't have any chunks of undesirables in your filling.
Right.
And you do the same with the pork roast.
This is, we grind up your veggies first, and
Yeah.
then we grind up
And
mine.
we need some parsley. Let's get this lined up. Let's see, and you want to, when you put this in, pull the stem.
Oh, yeah.
You think?
Okay.
Okay, now let me see how much parsley.
Okay, now Pam and Mary are going to tell us about the vegetable portions of the filling, and they're in the process of preparing that, so they're going to tell us what they've done. What have you got there, Mary?
Okay, Pam has cut up the onions and the she's gotten the rosemary lined up.
And I'm going to pull the leaves off of the rosemary stem
Yeah.
before they go through, so it won't get hung up in the grinder.
And you don't want that stocky part of the rosemary. Okay, and I'm pulling out pieces of parsley. I don't like too much of the stem, so I'm cutting off pieces like this, where the stem begins and just the parsley tender part. And also, I have chopped up garlic.
Well, let me see that garlic. Where have you chopped it up?
I chopped that up real fine. And
How much garlic is there?
2 to 3 cloves.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
So you do that by hand?
by hand. That has to be very fine.
I
And that-
don't. I put mine in the garlic press, but she's the master.
Yeah.
Either way, it'll work.
Either way, it will work.
This you don't have the risk of that chunky garlic taste.
Okay, now, Mom, you'd never give exact amounts,
No, I never
so you
got
say
this.
a large handful. And-
Well, it's like you do for gravy.
Yeah, so that ends up being, in most cases, most of the bunch, if you just
Yeah.
use the little leaves.
Depends on how big your bunch is.
That's true.
Yeah.
So I guess
That's
we're
true.
still not any closer, but
It's
just
not an
go by
exact
hand.
science. So
Oh,
it's
this is the way I got it from Mom.
Yeah.
yeah.
There was no exact amount. It was by guess and by golly.
Now, what type of parsley is that? Is that
The
Italian?
flat leaf,
Oh.
absolutely. The flat leaf.
Flat leaf, and
Very
that's called Italian?
That's right.
Because there's two types, I think.
Yes, the curly and this.
And you want to use the
What?
Italian, which is the flat leaf.
Always the flat leaf.
Yeah.
Got it. Tell us about the onions there that you have there ready to go. These are the ingredients that are going to go into the chopper. We've got the parsley and the onions. About how many onions was there?
About 1 to 2. This is about 1.5 onions here.
Okay, so
Because
good.
I had one started and it was...
Okay, so let's go over there now and start doing the chopping, I guess.
Yeah, that's
And what we
right.
got going here is a sunbeam with an attachment on it, and Pam is feeding the chopper there with these parsley and the onions. So
I don't remember. Sometimes you do it twice.
No, we decided it wasn't necessary to do this twice
Yeah.
because it becomes important to alternate the parsley, onion, and the rosemary as you put it through.
And you think that's fine enough, huh?
Yeah.
With a little piece of parsley.
what are you doing here?
Okay, I'm cutting up the meat in pieces, getting it ready for the grinder. And I'm looking for gristle or undesirables, like when you insert your parsley and garlic, it makes an indentation, and the parsley and garlic is there, and you want to remove that because you don't want that into your ravioli. That was just to flavor the meat. So that's what I'm doing, looking for undesirables and getting rid of that. And so this is to be cut in sizes to go through the grinder.
Now Mary is finishing up cutting up both the pork and the beef, and then Pam is going to now run it through the grinder. So she's taking the diced up pork and beef, and the little link pork sausages here also go in, and they're all put into the grinder, and they're chopped up as part of the filling. And she kind of alternates the different types of meat as she goes through the process. got going there?
Okay, this is the uncooked vegetable portion that we had put through the chopper. It's the parsley, onion, garlic, and rosemary, and it's cooking in the drippings from the sausage that we had earlier. This is my chicken, and this is my mom's beef right here. And we cook it very slowly for quite a while until the vegetables are almost like a little mush.
And we have to salt and pepper this too after.
And we will be salt and peppering this and adding,
You know, and see how it is.
adding the cooked Swiss chard and spinach to this.
And the Swiss chard and spinach is being chopped here by Mary, which we have it. Mary, where did you get that, and what did you do? You previously cooked it or what?
Yeah, I got the spinach at the farmer's market because I felt because of all the spinach scare, theirs would be the best.
And so how
then
much of each?
I got 3 bunches of spinach and 1 bunch of chard. And I took the spinach and I steamed it, and then I cut it up, chopped it up, and put it in the freezer. And now I'm re-chopping it a little because it's a little icy. I took it out yesterday morning, but it's still a little icy, but it'll soon thaw out.
Right. And then this gets added to what's being sautéed in there, which is the rosemary, onion, parsley, and garlic
Right.
that have been run through the chopper. And these get added later in the process
Yeah.
because they don't need much cooking.
No, because
They're already cooked.
They've already been
Not
pre-cooked or
really,
steamed.
Steamed.
They've been
Steamed.
steamed.
Yeah.
So that's great. So this here will go in, maybe Pam, if you can open up that lid, this will go into here once this is cooked down a bit. And how long you cook this, Mary, do you think
Oh,
this?
I have to, by guess and by golly, I would say about maybe 30 minutes at the most. I don't know. You have
And
to,
what consistency are you looking for when you're,
let's see. It has to be darker because it's bright green now.
and cooked down a bit?
Yeah, cooked down.
Great.
And you just feel like it.
Okay, the onion and parsley and garlic and rosemary has been cooked down, and now Mary's going to be adding the cooked Swiss chard first, as you see her doing there, because she adds that first because it needs to cook a little longer than the spinach, which is right beside it in that pan there.
Yeah. It would have been a little faster if I used separate pans, but that's okay.
So now she's got all the Swiss chard in there. So now Mary's going to add the spinach to the previously cooked sautéed Swiss chard and the garlic and the onions and the rosemary. And how long do you cook the spinach for?
Again, you kind of, let's see, maybe not even 10 minutes or so, but you taste. Again, and we'll put more salt and pepper on when we taste. But now that we put the Swiss chard and the spinach in, we want to taste it again for salt and pepper.
Right.
We're getting close.
The part I like is when we put everything in the bowl.
Yeah.
And then we add stuff to it that tastes pretty good.
Okay, what do you tell me again what you're doing, Mary?
I'm putting some salt and pepper in now that I've added the Swiss chard and the spinach. So I want to taste it. And it needed a little bit of salt and pepper, and I'm going to taste it.
How long have you cooked the spinach now?
The spinach, I'd say close to 12 minutes maybe.
At least, yeah.
Yeah, maybe 15. But you can tell by taste usually. And you,
So what do we have here, Mary? What are you doing here? Tell me again.
this is the drippings from the roasts, the pork and beef roast. And I'm warming it up a little because it came from the fridge. And this is going to go into the meat and the rest of the filling. I'm stirring it up. I want to make sure there's no extra pieces of whole garlic or rosemary like here. Get rid of that because I think it's okay.
Now you've added the drippings to the ground up meat, huh, Mary?
Yeah, ground meat. I think that's
So the
good.
drippings I've added to the ground meat.
Yeah. Now I'm going to get the big spoon. Put the juice of the meat in here, and I like to stir it right away so it gets spread through the roast here.
Got it. So what's the next step here?
Put the vegetables in that we cooked. Get all the stuff that's hot out of the way before you put the eggs in, otherwise they're liable to cook, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you don't want that.
No. That's good enough, huh? What do you
Yeah,
think?
absolutely.
Okay, now we stir this in. This has to be stirred in well. You're doing all the washing.
Might as well. Oh, sorry.
Okay. Dad had bought me that pan. It's got a rack to it too. It likes to be heated through. So we're going to put cheese in now. Not too much because cheese takes over. Maybe one more little. Then we can always taste our nutmeg, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. And always be sure and hold on to this so that it doesn't fly open so you get too much spice in there. This is nutmeg, so that's pretty powerful. No, that was allspice. Okay. Now we'll try the nutmeg, and then we'll taste when we get everything. Cheese, you think? All right, I'll stir it up and see.
So
I have
we're
enough.
adding a little bit more salt and pepper.
Yeah, I have
After we
more
tasted it.
pepper if we need it. I got a new jar.
Because I was,
So what are you doing now, Mary?
I'm breaking the eggs open in a mug here so I can give them a good beating with the fork before I add it to our mix here,
Okay,
our
so
filling rather.
2 eggs are going to go in there.
2 eggs. 2 eggs for large batter and 1 egg for small.
And this filling here makes enough raviolis for about how many people?
What did we
well,
say?
we've got to figure maybe 40 people because we serve about 20 on Christmas and we have always lots of filling left over. And we could feed another 15, 20 with the filling we have left over.
So what do you do with the filling today then after we finish with
We're
the
going to freeze it
freeze it? Okay. Do you make it in 2 batches?
in 2 batches.
I see.
Yeah.
3 feet to match her, in height to match her. She was a very tall woman.
Wish I knew what she knew. Wow.
Oh, I think you do fine.
That lady was something else.
Yeah, she was, but so are you.
Yeah. I think this is moist enough. We don't need any more of that juice that I was saving.
Okay.
But you can pass judgment on it if you like.
Oh, I can.
Okay, so where are we now? We are all, looks like we've got it all
Giving it
combined.
a final stir before we put it in containers for the freezer.
So we started about 9:30 this morning and it's almost 12:30.
Yeah.
So this is about a 3-hour process.
Yeah.
And we're doing this on December 3rd, 2006. And so now, as you can see, Pam and Mary are in their final stages. In fact, they've got all of the filling completely done. And what we'll be picking up with the next session is how to make the dough and roll them out and actually fabricate the raviolis themselves.
And I have to make a gravy, which I will do.
Oh, the gravy has to be made, and maybe we can tape some of that as well, so we'll have maybe 3 sessions.
Yeah, well now, if you want to get started the day before on the gravy, you can make it up to a certain point and then finish it off on the day that you're going to serve it. That way it won't taste like it's reheated. And that, we'll tell you more about that when we make the gravy.
Great.
All right.
Yeah.
So stay tuned, and thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you, John. You
Bon
should
appetit
send us
and arrivederci. The ravioli making process, and what we're going to do today is make the dough for the raviolis, and Mary's going to kind of briefly explain the recipe, and then we'll show you as we go. So what do we got going here for the making of the dough, Mary?
Okay, you're going to need 1 3/4 pounds of flour, 2 tablespoons of oil, approximately 2 1/4 cups of warm water, and 2 eggs. I say approximately 2 1/4 cups of warm water because we'll start out with 2 cups and then leave about 1/4 of a cup in the pan, because depending on the weather, you might not need that extra water. So, okay, the surface to make the dough is a wood board about 30 inches by 42 inches. Okay, in a bowl add 2 eggs, 2 cups of warm water, and then 2 tablespoons of oil.
What kind of oil?
I use the Mazola corn oil.
Mazola corn oil.
I don't use the olive oil.
Okay.
Okay, then you beat the eggs up first, and then pour in your water and your oil.
And just
And then keep beating it until it's well blended.
pick up, you were mixing the eggs and the water together.
Yeah. Okay. So when you get that all together, then blend it. You know, the eggs and the water and the oil. Blend it with the fork. Okay, and then you see, do we have the flour?
No, we haven't done that yet.
Okay, so you get your bowl and the big bowl, and put your 1 3/4 pound of flour in there. Make a well, and then gradually stir in your water and egg mixture with the fork around, and blend it in and stir, and you can see how it feels and looks, whether you think you're going to need the extra 1/4 cup of water or not. Sometimes you do and sometimes you don't. So it's better to not have it too damp, because then you have to keep adding more flour. But anyway, you'll see how that goes. So then when you get that all together into a dough, put it on the floured board, the big floured board, and knead it and work it together.
How long do you need it for?
Oh, about 10 minutes, maybe a little more. You want a nice smooth dough that feels rather firm and right.
Mm-hmm.
And then when that's all done, you know how that goes, the kneading. We have that on tape.
Right, and then you want to cut it in half after you...
Then you cut
oh, no,
it.
you make
No.
we make it rest.
Make it rest put it on, leave it there on the board, put the big bowl over it, and let it rest for about 10 minutes.
Okay.
And then you take the bowl out, and and then you cut the dough in half.
Got it.
Put half of it in the bowl and cover it with a dish towel, and then you roll out the half that's on the board. Kind of work it a little bit into a nice little round piece.
Right.
And then roll it out till the proper thickness.
Right.
And you have to turn this dough over once with the rolling pin. You take and flip it over the rolling pin, and gently pour it upside down.
And you'll show us how to do that.
Yeah, and
Right.
then of course you have plenty of flour under there. You want to keep it floured
Right.
on the board. Okay, and then you keep rolling until it's the proper thickness, and then you measure from the length half of it, and put a little line so that part of it you'll be putting the filling on. And
Got it.
Spread the filling nice and thin and nice and smooth, and then put the other half of the dough over that, And then,
Need the edges? Do you need the edges? How do you seal the edges around?
well, you take a look at the edges. You want to be sure that the filling is covered. And if there's any edges that are adaptable to flipping up over to make a nice seal,
To make a nice seal, got
you
it.
do that all the way around. You can tell by
Right.
looking at it. So then you take your ravioli indentation rolling pin and very firmly roll over this area to make the raviolis. You want it to be firm because you want it to be nice and sealed so that the raviolis will be nicely covered.
Right,
Tight
in the little pockets like,
in the
yeah.
little pockets like. And then you take your cutter and roll it, up and down to make the little raviolis.
To
go
cut it on all four sides.
one way and then the
Ah,
other.
see. And then
Okay.
you put them in boxes?
Then you put them in your boxes with, first you cut parchment paper and put that in your box, and each layer has to have a parchment paper layer under
Separating them.
separating them, because when you go to cook them, you want to just be able to lift off this parchment paper and just dump it right in the water.
And each layer has about 36 raviolis, and you'll see later in the tape on that. And then after that's done, you refrigerate them?
Then you refrigerate the
Yeah,
box.
because this is a couple days ahead of when the
Yeah.
dinner really is. We're doing
Yeah.
this on the
Of course,
23rd.
it's up to you whether you want to do it the day before or 2 days before. It depends on how your time is.
How you schedule it.
Yeah.
So then on the day of the dinner, then you take them out of the refrigerator and let them set a while, or no?
Well, you can, but you don't have to.
Okay.
It
So
depends on how much space you have.
right.
So-
So let's tell me about okay, on the day there with the cooking. How are they cooked?
Okay, well, we get a great big pot and put it, how much from the edge?
Maybe 2 to 3 inches from the top of the
Yeah, from the
pot.
top.
And it's a pretty good sized pot.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we bring this boiling water to boil.
Yeah.
And what do you add to it?
Salt. You add about a tablespoon of salt, and then you taste it and see if it's salty enough. You don't want a taste of salt, but you want the water to have some
flavor.
flavor
I see.
to it, not flat.
So we got this water boiling now, and then what do you do?
Then you take your parchment paper corners with the raviolis in, and one at a time, you put them in this boiling water and just slip your paper away, and it works beautifully.
And you can put about 2 or
About-
3 layers in there, huh?
You can put a box of 2 and another box of 1 layer.
Yeah, so that's about 36 to a layer, that's 72, about 100 in the pot cooking. You don't want to overcrowd.
No, you don't want to crowd. And then when you get them all in there, with the back of the spoon, gently stir it from the
Right.
bottom.
And you bring that back up to a boil.
Bring that back up to a boil.
And then what? Turn the heat
And
down?
then turn the heat down, not too low, but so it's gently.
Gently cooking.
Yeah, cooking.
For about how long?
Oh, about, test them after 6 minutes or so.
So you take one out and check the dough to see if it's al dente, or how you like the...
How you like your dough. Yeah.
Right, so somewhere in the
They're
range of, after you turned it down, after it boiled once, they're in the 6 to 10 minute range, they should be done.
Yeah,
Okay, after they're done, what do you do?
yeah. Okay, and you want to remember too that, there's, when you take out the first spoonful or two of the ravioli, that the others are still in there.
Still
so-
cooking, so you don't
still
want to get them too done because
Yeah.
they're going to still cook.
They're
So then you
gonna-
bring this pot over to the sink.
to the sink, and you take your, put a colander side by the pot,
Colander, okay.
and then you get the strainer,
Strainer to scoop them out with.
scoop them out, and you put about two scoops of the strainer in the colander.
Right, so you scoop about 2 scoops of raviolis out of the boiling water into the colander and
Yeah.
kind of drain the water really well.
Yeah, and as you take the scoop up too, you can,
Kind of jiggle it.
jiggle it a little.
And then you transfer those that are in the colander onto their platter.
Platter.
Gently
Yeah,
to make a layer.
to make a layer there, okay.
And so go back and get more out of the hot water with your strainer, put them in the colander, shake the water out very gently a little bit, and then transfer that to the platter so you get a nice layer of them.
Yeah, and then you put your
What do you do next?
Then you put your gravy, spoon your gravy on there with the big spoon and some cheese, and you'll know how much cheese you want by the taste.
And what kind of cheese are you using?
Parmesan grated cheese.
From Drager's?
Drager's,
It comes in
that's
a container already grated?
Yeah, I'll show it.
Is
to
it
you.
shredded or grated?
Grated.
Grated.
That's finer.
Real finer, got it.
Yeah, and that'll melt faster
Right.
than the shredded.
And
And
then-
now they have another type that's in little tiny pieces,
Oh,
thin pieces, but the grated is the best.
right. So that's ready to serve then?
Ready to serve.
Okay,
And tell
great.
them to bring that to the table, and then you can make some, put some more in another platter or container if there's more in the water, which there probably will be.
And we're good, and then we sit down and enjoy.
And enjoy. And
Okay.
you wait for the first, they're good.
Right now, Mary is beginning the dough recipe, and she's taking the gold medal all-purpose flour and measuring out by weight 1 3/4 pounds of flour. And she's putting it on the little scale there, as you can see. And Pam is very religiously observing.
At this point,
Yeah.
I do my own dough later. Yeah, we're all right.
So now, what are you doing, Mary? You
I
took you
put this in the bowl,
right.
and now I'm going to get this out of the way. And then I'm going to put these on the chair.
How many eggs did you put in there,
2
Mary?
eggs.
2 eggs, and how much oil?
2 tablespoons for a large dough.
Of olive oil?
Yeah, 2 tablespoons. No, the Mazola corn oil.
I got you. And over here on the stove, you've got the water
The water, which I better
heating. And
test.
how much water we put in there?
That's 2 1/4 cups.
And what temperature you want to bring it to? Just to warm?
Just warm, not otherwise it will curdle the eggs. It will cook the eggs. So I think it's about. Hey, as a matter of fact, I think I'll just leave it there while I'm heating these eggs with the oil. I can use another fork, Pam.
Another 4?
Yeah, so I can make the hole in the well in the flour, and I don't want to use the one that I beat the eggs with.
Okay.
Make a well.
So what are you doing, Pam?
I am making the well in the bowl. Earlier, Mom made reference to putting the flour directly on the board, which is what her mom used to do, and a lot of Italian cooks still do. But we just feel a little more comfortable with putting it in the bowl so it doesn't, the egg yolk doesn't stick to the board underneath.
Get the board all wet.
Get
Yeah.
the board wet for the rest of the rolling. And it works just as well. Just doesn't look as much fun.
No, the other is more authentic, but
Yeah.
it turns out the same. I think this is okay. The warm water makes the dough smooth and nice versus the cold water.
So you're just adding a portion of that right
Oh,
now.
about a fourth of a cup. I think I'll leave.
Well, you're going to leave a 1/4 of a cup
Yeah, in the pan.
in the pan. So you've added about
That's-
2 cups of the warm water. Because
Yeah.
you can always add, but you can't take
I'll
away,
leave-
Mary
well,
says.
you can add more flour, but it makes it more difficult. If it's too moist or too wet. Yeah, I've learned to do the fork thing pretty well. Oh, I can use this now. Okay, now. Grandpa John was right. We should do these things more often.
Oh, I think you've done it quite a bit this year.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now see, this would be a lot trickier on the plain board, I would think.
Yeah.
The
But
eggs
you see, they're so sure of themselves, the people that do that.
all the time.
Yeah.
Alright.
Now this will tell the tale, I think, whether we need more or not.
And this requires a lot of strength. And it's just really remarkable that you do it so well.
You know, talk about strength and hair and all that. My Mary Bell tells me that of all the older ladies she does, I've got the most hair of all of them.
Yeah.
She likes that. She thinks it's wonderful.
Well, it is.
So you're using your fork there to try to incorporate the moisture
water.
with the flour, I see.
Yeah. Bring me a plain blade knife, will you, Pam, please?
Certainly.
I'm still trying to determine whether or not I'm going to need that.
The extra water.
Yeah.
She's trying to determine now the texture of it to determine whether we need the balance of the warm water. And so this is kind of important to get the right consistency.
Yeah. All right. Oh, pull this thing to my back because it will start buzzing. And then Mark will come over and say, "That's twice today, Grandma. That's gone off." What are you doing?
Well, oh, we'll put it back on for sure when we're finished here.
Yeah.
It's right there.
Well,
on
you're
the
here.
table.
I don't need that.
That's right.
Yeah.
You don't need it.
One night he came over. That was. But when I can knead some flour into it and it'll be okay.
So we've not added the extra
No.
water.
No,
to-
we
Well,
won't
this
be.
kind of temperature, I think that does it. The temperature we have to do.
So what are you doing there, Pam?
I am flouring the
Put
board
some more.
so Mom can
'Cause I
weave
wanna
some
add
more
some.
into
That's-
it because
That's good, right there. I think. Yeah, it's sticky. I should have used even a little less.
well, we were distracting you.
That's okay. I want all of that.
I know. I'll get it.
So, I'm going to put my hands into some flour. Classes
Yes.
taught me how to knead.
Boy, I'll say nobody can knead better than you.
Have you tried your raisin sourdough baguette yet, Pam?
No, I haven't.
Have
Mom,
you,
I put it in
John?
the freezer.
Same here. We put it in the freezer and haven't
It's good.
packed. It is, huh? I bet.
Yeah. I'm glad I brought it. That was so tempting. You had to buy 6 loaves.
What was that?
You had to buy 6 loaves
Oh.
because I bought it through the catalog.
Oh.
You didn't know that?
No.
Yeah. I sent away for it.
Oh, I was wondering why you felt like you needed to bring it by that day.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now this amount of dough, Mary, how many raviolis will it make? It'll probably use for half of the filling that we made the other day.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to use.
We figured they could serve 24. Is that what we figured?
I don't remember.
I think so. Be
Right.
24 servings. Not necessarily serve 24 because most people eat more than one serving.
Right.
You'll get an idea today when you see us putting them into the boxes, you know, how many boxes it makes and how many you think
Right.
each box. Somewhere, look on my notes there, Pam. I think somewhere I wrote, or maybe that I have an extra page.
They ask you now, this board that you're putting it on, is it a, tell me about the board.
The board?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
This wood board, is it got to be, it's best to do the dough on a wood board?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Or, you know, something that will take dough.
Any history on this board?
Yeah, Grandpa John made it for me.
Your dad.
Really?
Yeah.
You didn't
Oh,
know
wow.
that?
So it's a little bit old.
Huh?
It's a little bit old.
Yeah, he made it for me.
Right? Now,
He made that other one that you took
Yeah.
home too.
see, today is December 23rd, and what Pam and Mary are doing is preparing for a Christmas dinner and that. So you can see about a couple days ahead of Christmas, this is where we are in process. On the 23rd, they are making the dough for the raviolis, and earlier in the tape you've seen that a week ago or more we did the filling. And then tomorrow we're going to be doing the
Gravy.
sauce and gravy. So we'll be documenting that as well. So you can see Mary has been doing this for about 5 minutes in the kneading.
Oh
So
yeah, it takes time.
it's probably going to be closer to 10 minutes by the time
Yeah.
she's
There's
feels
some-
that it's ready.
There's some breads that actually say 10 minutes if
Yes.
you have the energy.
Yeah, and she does have the energy for this. It's amazing.
Well, I'm determined that as long as you guys want it, I'm going to do it.
Well. Enough dough for all that filling.
Flexible, not too hard, and yet I don't want it too damp, because that's what gives me trouble. If it's too damp, then this doesn't work well with the filling. I don't like it. I like it to be,
It stretches.
yeah.
So the consistency of the dough is really kind
And you
of critical.
can sort of feel it, you know?
And so you've been working that dough now beyond 10 minutes,
Yeah, well, that's because it was a little damper than it should have been.
right, in order to get the right feel. And you
And
can see her
before-
poking your hands into it.
Well, I'm
But should-
poking it to move this together here,
I see.
and then kneading it. And I'm going to give it a few bangs like this. Then before I call it done, I'm going to have Pam feel it, see what she thinks, and see how it feels to you.
See, it's smooth and elastic. I think it's ready.
Not too
It's
damp.
not sticky,
Okay.
and there's no sticky little parts in there that could hang us up on the board later. No, this is good. This is
Okay,
beautiful.
now I'll give it the final thing, and then I want to scrape the board.
Then, go ahead. What are you doing?
I think that's
We're
smooth.
trying to get any little particles that may be on the board, because if you don't, you have a hard time when it comes to rolling out.
And make it smooth.
Now, does the dough go in the bowl, or does the bowl get turned upside
The
down
whole
over the
gets
dough?
turned upside down. And I'll put some flour in it too after you get it.
Now
Now,
the dough has to rest for 10 minutes.
Or so, to make it more pliable to rolling. And particularly if it happens to be firmer, this will soften it enough to roll it easier.
so they're putting the dough into a rest mode right now for about 10 minutes, and they put flour on the board, and then after they scraped it, and then they're going to turn a bowl over it so
There you
it
go.
it keeps it warm, so to speak. And they're going to leave it like that for about 10 minutes.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be too. We're gonna do one half and then we'll do the other half, right?
Yeah, you only roll out a half of this dough at a time, because you
Would
just
be too
can't
much
handle.
to handle, yeah.
You can't handle the whole thing. Okay, quick question. Are you taping? Oh, okay. Well, I'll ask you later.
Okay. So we're cutting the dough in half. It's sat underneath the bowl there for about 10 or so minutes.
And it's a little round mold, you know, like this, so I'll start with a round. Chances are getting it even better if I shape it before I roll it, you know, in a round circle. Now, then put plenty of flour here. Good thing I have another guy, huh?
Yeah, something Mom always has plenty of flour around.
And this time I double checked myself. I told the guy that looks like Craig over there, I said, now I hope I didn't forget anything. Well, he said, you know, we're gonna be open. Hmm. His wife is expecting again, which is nice.
good.
They're so great. They go to kindergarten and, you know, participate in things like parents do.
Yeah.
He's a nice guy. Okay, now let me see what we're doing here. Let's hope it's not sticky. Now we're rolling. I think it feels pretty good. You know?
Yeah, it looks like it. Looks like it's smooth and elastic and gonna work just fine for you.
So today we're going to be making two of these batches of dough.
Yeah.
Yes, and then I'll do my chicken one when Grandmom's all through with her beef.
So this batch is going to be all beef,
All beef, because that's all.
and the second batch will be beef too. The other half of this
The
dough.
other half of this will also be beef,
Yeah. And then we'll make chicken
and then the chicken.
all to itself. You know what I'm going to do?
Well, it's good that they see that in the film, that that's what we call sticking.
Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to turn it over quicker than I usually do. So, that might help this. Now, put lots of flour in there. What's it doing?
Uh-oh, it doubled back on itself. Okay, there you go, you're good. You can't pull it.
No. It has to flip on its own. Okay. Now I think we're set. Come on, do it.
This requires a lot of energy
Excuse
on
me.
Grandmom's part.
Excuse me.
You're excused, do you need water?
Not yet, but I mean the flour is what does it.
Oh, sure. Flip it anymore?
I may, I see.
Mary, what type of how thin are you trying to make it?
We'll feel it. We don't want it too thin, and yet we don't want it too thick.
This is way too thick.
Yeah.
Still too thick.
Oh, yeah.
Way too thick.
Oh, I know, it's not even shaped.
So
not
it's
even-
currently about an
about
eighth of an
2
inch thick right now.
It's about 2/3, well, over here it's more like,
And she's trying to shape it in an oval because what's going to happen is that there's going to be a fold down the center, which will be one half of the envelope, so to speak.
I want to see what it's like on this side. I think I better flip
I
it
think you better flip it.
so it won't stick.
So now she's going to go through the
Wait a minute.
turning it over, and you do that by putting it on the roller, as you can see them doing it now.
And this is really tricky because you do not want to stretch it. Okay, I'll let you,
Just a minute here.
you all right?
See how it does down there on the bottom.
Okay,
See, this is sticking here.
it is. Well, we knew we might have a little trouble with this dough, but we've actually, it's going better than we thought.
Lots of flour. Lots of flour.
More?
Yeah. It will only adhere to as much as it needs.
Okay.
Now you can go behind me here and straighten it before I go any further.
Okay.
Okay, now we go forward.
I'm holding it, but I'm not pulling it.
Yeah. Now, let me feel where we're at here.
As you can see here, we have the board that this dough is being made on is about 30 inches by 42 inches, so it's a pretty good sized board, and there's a pretty good sized piece of dough that's been laid out there. And the thickness, it gets pretty close. Maybe Pam can hold up the edge. Is this getting to the thickness that we want to have?
It's more like a thickness of a penny, yes. That's it.
Because of it being tendered, so
Mary, what are you doing there?
I'm brushing off any excess flour on the inside here because we don't want that in the filling with the ravioli dough. We don't want
Smells
extra,
so good.
extra flour here.
What have you got there, Pam?
This is the filling, which has been frozen for a few weeks, and oh, it smells like heaven. All of the spices have married, and it's just gorgeous.
Where's the tape measure? We gotta measure it now.
Pam, what are you doing?
We're measuring the length so that we know where to fold it in the center.
I'm going to start
It's
putting the
31 and a half. Excuse me, that's not, yes it is, 31 and a half. So that is 50.
So what you're doing there, Mary, is
making a little line so I know where to start the filling. You know?
right. So that divides it in half, so she knows where to start putting on the filling. And what she's going to do is fold the
No, I
smaller
need that.
size into the bigger side so that it covers. In other words, this side right here is a little bit narrower than that side, so it's going to be folded this way. And now she's going to begin to put the filling
Up to this line here. We did take the chicken out, didn't we?
Yeah,
Looks
chicken
good.
is out and stirred.
Needs it, yeah.
It was fine.
I mean, it needs to come out because
Oh,
it's
yeah.
cold here. We can smooth it some more if we get the first line in there.
Your grandmama's very fussy about this.
Oh yeah, 'cause I know I've had trouble once and I learned the hard way. And then I knew why Grandma was fussy about it.
Now, if you would just glob it on, what would happen?
Glob it on? I don't know, but
Well, I mean, if you wouldn't spread it thin
Oh.
enough, what would happen? Thin and smooth.
I think that when you put the indentation rolling pin over it, it would be problems. There wouldn't be enough dough, this
To
dough
cover
to
it.
cover
To
right.
cover it.
So the thickness is about, you put in a layer of about how thick there? When
Well,
you think?
wait just a minute until I spread it from here, John. This is just to sort of, I think that's pretty smooth and thickness is okay. Do you think we need to do that more?
Well, looks pretty good. There's a little hole right there. I don't know if that bothers you or not, because I know how fussy you are, but
I can put a
it
little
looks
bit
pretty
more.
good to me.
So how thick does it look to you, Pam?
I would say about 3/8 of an inch.
Not even,
Not even. About, it's not an eighth,
A little bit more than an eighth, then,
and
huh?
certainly not, maybe 2/8. No, that's a fourth.
Okay, now we're in the process. What are you doing now, Mary and
we're
Pam?
getting ready to put the top layer over the filling here. And it's kind of tricky. So I want Pam to watch me. So we get it on that line.
Yeah, okay. I think you're good.
Ready to go, huh?
Ready to go. Perfect. Oh, pulling a little too much.
Pulling over that way.
There we go.
Well, we can,
It's all right. We'll need it for this side over here.
yeah. Wait just a minute. There we go. And we'll brush off. Well, we really don't have to because we always put some on top. Now this will be taken care of right now, like that.
Yeah. And I'm just going to cut some of this dough
And
away.
if there's too much filling, you can take a little out.
Well, what I'd rather do, if you'll allow me,
Patch it up
you
and
think it'll work?
try it, sure. But sort of overlap it here so that it'll
Yeah,
stick.
I'm taking the thinner end to overlap.
Overlap so it'll stick. See, where they make these things, John, they have,
Okay, before we do the rolling it with the rolling pin to make the raviolis, you notice Mary's adding some more flour on top. And she's went around and sealed all the edges.
okay, now, we gotta
Alrighty.
watch that little funny part.
It's right here.
Alright, so what do we do here, like, so, I guess,
Well,
huh?
why don't you move it down another, because the funny part is right.
Really hard. because we really want the indentations to be good. How we doing?
All right, I think I'm somehow, we're getting off on a slant, but I don't think
I
it
know,
matters.
no, it's not gonna, it's gonna color it. They look good.
Yeah.
Okay, now watch me that I do it hard enough and straight enough.
Well, if you need some help, I'm
Yeah,
happy to do it.
you're good at being firm. You do the next one and see
Okay.
how it goes.
I probably won't do any better than
Just
you.
give it a good push. Good
What I do is
spot.
put a little pressure on my forefinger.
Yeah, all right. Well, we're on our
I
way.
think I got ahead of you. I think I moved
Right, you
faster
did
than
do-
you did.
Keep in the same line, so
Yeah.
to speak. So now they're cutting them in the other direction, so they'll come out with the cut being on
little
all four
pillows.
sides.
Yeah, that's what your Jeff calls them, little pillows.
Little pillows, right.
Okay, and we're leaving the... Okie
So
doke.
what are you guys doing now?
We're picking them up, putting them in the boxes,
And you separate them as you go
and you
because...
you watch
Now
them.
see, that's gristle, and we pull that
Yeah,
out when
pull that out
happens.
and then seal it up.
And what do you got, kind of paper do you have in that box?
Parchment.
It's parchment paper that you buy in the grocery store. It's used for baking usually. But the reason we do it this way is because we lift out each layer and just set it right in the boiling water.
So that saves having to turn them over like we used to. You know, we used to turn them over
I see.
with wax. What did we do? Wax paper at the time when we turned them over? But we didn't use the wax paper to dump them in, did we?
We turn them over to keep them from sticking so that we could get them out. Now Grammy used to just leave them out in the air so that they dry a little bit.
She would take and put them on a platter and just toss them in from the platter.
After you get them all in the boxes, what happens next?
To put them in the fridge.
Put them in the refrigerator until the day of the dinner?
Yeah.
I see. So this boxes are kind of like the holding area for them.
Yeah, now
And you
this
probably
is a-
make 1 or 2 layers of them?
Yeah, 2 layers, but if we need to do 3, we will.
This box can actually hold 3 because it's a little bit deeper rather than the other boxes. So we do put 3 in this one.
Okay,
So you wanted kind of a count of the number of raviolis.
Okay.
Let's see. There's probably about 36 in here. So 3 dozen.
And so when you cook them, you're cooking about 1 layer at a time in the boiling water?
No.
No, we do more than that.
About a box and a half of these.
If it's
2
a
layers.
2-layer box, definitely
2
both
layers?
layers.
Both layers, so that's about 72
Yeah.
raviolis go in. And you don't want to overcrowd them in the boiling water.
No.
The best boxes for these, incidentally, are the pie boxes. Which are the smaller ones, the pie boxes. But,
Now, we don't have to flour, or we
well, it
do?
wouldn't hurt to flour a little bit, but I don't know why, because we dump it in
We
the
dump
water.
it in anyway, so there's really no point.
No need in it, no.
We don't want too much flour
No,
in the
that's
water
right.
anyway.
Takes the taste away.
Okay.
We're finished with the first batch. But something tells me after we do the chicken, we're probably gonna make some more beef.
Some more beef because we have
Because
so much
Pam
filling.
made a lot more dough.
Okay, so we're winding up the session today on really fabricating the raviolis, as you can see, and so that's it for today, and we'll pick up with the next phase of it, which will be the making of the sauce, and that'll probably go on tomorrow.
Yeah.
So, bon appetit. Thanks, Pam.
Oh, my pleasure.
Mary,
I'm still
thank
the
you.
student.
And
welcome.
we'll
I can't believe
to be
we're
continued.
actually doing it.
Back again for our 3rd session of the ravioli making process, and today it's the final session. What we're doing is going to make the sauce, and this sauce can be used for raviolis and as well as spaghetti. My mom's old recipe, and it's really great. So Mary's going to kind of describe the recipe, and then we'll go into the actual making of the sauce. Okay, Mary, what do you got here? What are we going to do?
Here's my cross rib, and sometimes I get a bigger piece than I really need because you get a better cut. And so I'll just cut off what I need for the gravy, and then if there's any left, I'll just put it in the freezer and I can use it.
Okay, so the first ingredient is 1 3/4 to 1 pound of stew meat or cross rib beef. The cross rib being more flavorful, and you'd like to use that. Okay, what's the second ingredient?
Okay, then this is the lean ground beef. They call it ground round. I use about a pound, that more or less.
Right.
And then I make meatballs out of this, salt and pepper, and make meatballs.
I gotcha.
And then we have 2 of these Italian mild sausage. And you take the skin off those and cut each one in 4 pieces.
Okay, so 2 of those.
Two sausages.
Right. Okay, reading on the recipe there. So you've gotten the sausage. What else? What's the next item on there?
Well, okay. Then you brown these in butter and oil.
Got it.
And when it's well browned, then you cover it a little bit to cook a little more. And then meanwhile, I watch this rather carefully because it's important to get that nice browning on the meat. That's where your flavor comes from. So then even if I have to turn it off so it doesn't overcook in that browning, sometimes it can burn. So I maybe just put it aside off the gas and go ahead and do my chopping, of the vegetables.
Okay.
And that consists of, chopped onion, about 1.5 or so of the chopped onion.
Yep, let's take a look at the recipe there. It talks about
3 cloves of garlic, chopped very fine on the garlic. And then celery tops or part of the celery rib is okay too, but if you have some tops, that's nice because it gives more flavor.
Got it.
And then parsley, a large handful, and carrot. I put a whole carrot in. And then rosemary. You don't have rosemary in here. Yeah. And then you take the little tiny leaves off the stem.
Destem the rosemary.
Yeah.
Got it.
And then chop that together real well, all of this. And then meanwhile, you have a package of dry mushrooms that are soaking in some hot water. And after you get all this stuff chopped, the celery, carrots, onion, I think Emerald has a name for it, but I don't remember it.
Right.
And then
Maricois.
yeah, that's it. Maricois. And then you chop your mushroom, but you save the water because you're going to need that when you have the tomato sauce to make it of the right consistency. You'll be using that as part of the water with the bouillon cubes. Okay, so
anyway, so that's kind of the summary of the recipe. So now we can go and see it. Mary actually performed these tasks, and we'll document it and record it. Okay?
all right.
Sounds good. What we have going on here, Mary, is that you're preparing the cross rib beef roast and cutting it in pieces, huh?
Yeah.
And this is again about 3/4 to 1 pound.
Well, we'll see when we get through here. I can tell by the pile. You know, oh, this cuts so nice. You know how much I should have.
What do we have going here now? We got get the ground lean sirloin, about 1 pound, and we're going to salt and pepper it.
Yeah. Salt and pepper. Enough, but not too much. Pepper is okay.
And right next to it is the 1 3/4 pounds of the cross rib beef that's been cut up. So what this is going to do here, we're going to turn these here into little meatballs, I guess, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I'll put a little bit more salt, because it's pretty thick there. Okay, now we fold this over like this. There, so that's got salt and pepper in it. They like the meat with their raviolis, my group over there.
Uh-huh.
I don't. I like just my ravioli, but they like the meat.
Mm-hmm.
This one may be a little too big, we'll see. Maybe I can add it onto one that might be small at the end. One of these days I'm going to figure out a measuring cup that might be able to fill to make these all even.
Oh, yeah.
But that another day. I'll just do it my own way.
So we're going to wind up with about 9 meatballs here from that pound of ground lean sirloin. And so the next process we'll be going to is to probably the
Sausage.
sausage, 2 Italian mild sausage.
This knife over here. When I was making the gravy down south for and more in Dempsey, when I was making gnocchis, Dempsey would come by. Oh, that smells so good. I know I keep saying this every time he came by, he'd say how good it smelled.
So now what are you doing? Taking the skin off?
Taking the skin off. They're very fresh this time.
So you cut each sausage into 4 pieces.
Yeah. Yeah.
One more to go.
One more to go. Sort of by guess and by golly.
So now she's preparing a little bit of butter and to put into the pan.
See.
That we're going to saute the, so we got 2 pans going here, and she's using olive oil or mazola oil?
Mazzola.
Okay, I'll have to check my recipe. It's a little splash of, this large pan is where the chopped up cross rib beef is going to go into, and the other pan is for the sausage and the meatballs.
Yeah. Right. Now,
So it's, how much oil you put in there? Quite a few.
I don't want too much, and yet I want enough, because the less fat you have coming up to the surface at the end, the better. Then sometimes I do it just right, and I don't have to take anything off,
Right.
any fat off. But you want enough. However, if it doesn't seem like there's enough as you're cooking the vegetables, you can always add some butter in there, which Grandma used to do sometimes. Add like almost a cube of butter. Now
That's it.
I like to have the butter and oil hot enough so that when I put the meat in there, I can hear that sizzle. And yet I don't want it, burning. So this is why it's sort of tricky. Cooking takes, as more you used to say concentration, and I say patience with it. You know, when I was having that nervous stuff, cooking was so hard for me. Yeah, that's it. The reason why I do it in 2 pans is because it browns better. You know?
I see. Go ahead, start talking.
All right, now, you see, this was nice and brown like that. So I turned it down, the gas, a little bit, and I put the lid on it and slowly let it cook a little there. See how nice and brown that is?
And that's the sausage and the meatballs.
Yeah.
Mamma mia.
Now this one here is not browning quite as well, but it's getting there. I don't want it to burn, and yet I want it to dry up a little, you know, from the water. It's getting there now.
So you've been cooking this about a good 10 minutes.
I don't look at the time on this, I look at the meat, you know. But if you think that helps, go ahead, you know.
Yeah, approximately. But you want it kind of like a well browned.
Yeah, well browned but not burned.
Did you add any spices to it while you were cooking?
Just salt and pepper on the beef. This is already, the ground beef already had salt and pepper on it.
I see.
And the sausage doesn't need anything.
So you just added a little bit of salt and pepper when you turned it on the beef.
On the beef, yeah.
Got it.
And that's all I do, just the one side is all I
Okay.
eat.
Okay, so it looks like it's getting pretty good and brown, and so you're going to turn the heat down,
And put the lid on.
put the lid on, and then
Let it cook for a bit, just a little bit.
how long?
I don't know, I'll just look at it, and then I'll set it aside so I can chop my vegetables.
Got it. Okay, sounds like a plan.
This one here,
And let me look at that one there.
see the browns that's coming from the meat?
Uh-huh.
That's your flavor that you want for the gravy. So I think that I will probably toss this aside for now.
So you moved it off the heat.
Yeah, move it off the heat. And pretty soon,
You'll do the same on that
yeah,
one.
I'll
And then now you're going to go back over here,
I'll get my equipment.
and the recipe calls for 1½ to 2 large yellow onions.
Yeah, I'll cut it up and I'll see how much I... Wonder what happened to Jim and Ron. Looks like we're not meant to contact each other. Later on today, I think I'll check with Lou and see if I got the right telephone number. That's so nice of them to do that. I don't want it. You know, since what... I think I'll put a little more, maybe about this much.
It looks like about an onion and a third.
Yeah. Nancy has to be on such a strict diet.
So now we're adding the 1 carrot. Getting it sliced up, which will be later chopped fine by hand. So now you're adding the parsley. It's about a good large handful of Italian parsley.
Nice parsley.
So now you're getting some celery tops.
The tops, and then I'll use some of the other too, because I don't have much. This is not good. I don't like that one.
Okay, that's about the amount of celery tops
I think. I'll see when I get it cut
that
out.
she's added. While this is going on there, the meats are pulled off the burners and waiting in the wings there on the stoves, as you can see.
Until they can get full attention.
And in the meantime, she's chopping up these vegetables. And it's got one of the pieces of celery there.
I'm getting rid of that.
What was that, Mary, about what Mom used to say?
Piazzanane.
Piazzanane.
What do you call string in Italian?
Yeah, piazzanane. What piazzanane means in Italian, it doesn't like the
Yes.
stringy part of the
Yeah.
celery. So Mom used to say piazzanane, and she used to push that aside,
She was
like as
very-
Mary did.
Very fussy about her things. And the lettuce, when she used to do lettuce, she think
A lot of celery tops. There wasn't a lot of celery tops in this bunch. So
No.
Mary is adding 1 stick of celery plus a half,
yeah.
if you noticed that. And she's also went and got a piece of the rosemary, which she's going to destem right now and take the and add that to the Mariqua pile here.
Just the leaves.
Right. How fine do you chop it?
Pretty
Mary?
fine. As fine as you can.
Fine as you can,
Yeah, I'll show you when I,
Get down to the...
yeah. I like it fine. So that you know when you're eating the raviolis and the sauce, you're not hitting a chunk of something. You know what?
Okay, as you can see, the chopping is getting down to a finer and finer texture. And while that's being done, I wanted to show you the meantime she is soaking the mushrooms that are going to be part of the sauce as well. And they are from Key Market, Pisco River, dried meadow mushrooms, and she soaked them in, they're soaking in some hot water, and so that's going to be part of the sauce as well, which you will see later on. Okay, this is about done chopping, aren't we?
Yeah.
And that's the kind of the consistency that we want to
Yeah.
have, the fineness, if you can see that.
That's pretty good.
Okay. So we're done chopping. It took about a good 10-15 minutes. And so now we're going over to the stove.
I'm going to get my big...
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, I get my spoon. And I'll pour it in here.
So what are you doing now?
I'm taking the meatballs and the sausage that's cooking in the other pan, and I'm putting it in the pan with the cross rib meat.
So that's going to be The pan is going to,
That's going to be the end, the gravy pan.
the gravy pan, the final pan.
I can put a little wine in here after to clean it up real good.
What do you put in there?
I'm going to put a little wine just to clean that up a little.
Really? We got to add that to the recipe.
Huh?
Have to add that to the recipe. What kind of wine do you put in
A
there?
red wine of some kind, just to clean that up.
Maybe a couple tablespoons?
Yeah, just to clean that up.
Oh, okay. That's a good
Sometimes
tip.
there's more stuck there too, you know, it's a good idea to get it all in.
Well, I put
See,
no wine.
Look at all this nice, see that dark stuff down in there? That's
Mhm.
all the flavor. That's good. That's what I like to see. Now I'm going to turn the gas up again. Let's see, that's the wrong. Yeah, so it's
So you could turn the heat on again.
yeah, but very low. Don't want to lose that brown. And while I put this in a pie plate or something to transfer it over. See, Grandma would probably take the board and just go over there, but I'm not that good. See the results.
Of the cooking, right?
Yeah.
Well, how long have you been cooking, Mary? This is what your birthday now is. You're
86.
86, and you've been making a few batches of raviolis in that period of time.
Yeah, and I helped Grandma.
Oh, absolutely. So now
But
we're going to.
I benefited from that.
So you're going to transfer that to a pie dish so that she can put it into the
Kind of think it's just best
To the-
to do.
gravy pot on the stove.
This would drive my grandkids up the wall. To have to be patient, you know. And the gravy, I've been doing that before I did ravioli for my spaghetti.
Mm-hmm. Which is the same recipe.
Yeah. Okay, now we'll chop the garlic and the mushrooms, then we'll add to it.
So what heat do you have it on now?
Kind of low until I get it all in there. And then I'll see why Grandma didn't eat.
So what do you got going there, Mary?
Garlic. I've got about 4 because some look a little small.
And you smashed them with a big
No.
meat cleaver and a piece
Yeah.
of plastic there to get them peeled, and then she's taking the peel or the skin off of them.
Yeah, it's a nice way of peeling them. It really
And,
does a good job.
And there's the 4th piece.
This is something you want real fine because you don't want to bite into a piece. Doesn't taste good that way.
So that's about the fineness that we want.
Yeah, I think that's good.
Okay, so now the next step is to
Get this.
chop the mushrooms, I guess.
Yeah, put this.
And in goes the garlic, chopped garlic.
Yeah, that's like good ingredients. Ingredients. Okay. Scoop this up just a little.
Okay, so these are the packages, one package of dried mushrooms that we talked about, and they've been soaking for a few hours, probably like 4 hours, in 2 cups of hot water. And she's kept the, reserved the water, which is about 2 cups, and she's going to put that in the refrigerator, and it's going to be used tomorrow when she adds the tomato sauce
And the broth.
and the broth.
First you cook the tomato sauce a little bit, and then you put the broth in to make it the right consistency of a sauce. I like to
So that's about the fineness, the consistency of the chopped dried mushrooms, which are now going to be added to the pan on the stove. And then go the mushrooms, and that's really the last vegetable ingredient for the sauce.
Now we can sail.
We can sail. So basically right now, everything is done in terms of the cooking portion.
It
It's
has to cook now.
yeah. So how long you cook it for?
Oh, well, let me take a look here and I'll try to.
It says it's slowly cook covered for about 45 minutes,
That's about right.
or until very limp.
Yeah, and I've learned though, in this and like in soups, that you can't overdo and then you lose some of the flavor. So I guess we have to just know more or less when it's done. And I can tell you, I think once I get this stirred. No, I think we have just the right amount of butter and oil, so we're not going to have to do too much skimming of fat, I think, when it's time for the tomato sauce.
Right.
But every once in a while you want to stir this, make sure it's not sticking to the bottom, and then you can tell whether it needs more butter or not.
Right. So if the consistency isn't quite right, what Mary is saying, that we can add a quarter pound or cube of quarter pound cube of butter if necessary, if it looks too dry.
Yeah.
But during the process of 45 minutes of simmering and cooking with the lid on, you take a look at it and see what the consistency is like, right?
Yeah, and see what you think.
And what you want to get is a kind of a moist consistency.
Well, you can tell. See, come over here where you see there's fluid there.
There's what?
Fluid
Fluid.
coming through, and that's good. And you want it, when it looks dry, then you want to put some more butter in because you don't want it to stick and burn at the bottom. So that's why it's important to every once in a while give it a stir and see what's going on. See, that looks like it can cook in there nicely.
Right.
There's enough fluid in there.
We got a little bit left, what's in the pan from where the sausage and the meatballs, and Mary's adding a little wine just to clean the pan out and swish it around and
See what we got here.
heat it up a little.
Yeah, because if it's not heated, it's going to cool right off. And I don't want it to cool off. Yeah, that's about enough. Smells good, wine cooking. Remember we used to
to have hot wine with cinnamon barks and stuff in it.
Oh, yeah.
With the family.
So she's evaporating a little bit of the alcohol that's in the wine to clean the pan out. She's cooked it for a few minutes on top of the stove there.
And that sort
And
of
so
bubbles.
you can see it bubbling up a little bit. So it's kind of deglazing it. And it's got a nice Cabernet Sauvignon aroma formed up.
I'd say we got all we could out of that. Now, okay, now I would say, yeah, this should take about 45 minutes or so. Now, and I want the meat to cook too. I could have cooked the meat a little longer before I put the vegetables in, but I was afraid of losing some of that nice brownness, that it would go too far and maybe dry up or burn or something. So I'd rather do it this way than the other way, the sure way. Okay.
So she's going to check on it maybe every so often.
So often and see what it's doing.
Right, and if it need be, like we mentioned before, if it was getting too dry, she would add some butter to it.
Yeah.
Right. And after this is all cooked and done, she's going to refrigerate it. And maybe Mary can tell us what she's going to do tomorrow.
Yeah.
Have a seat here.
Okay, tomorrow then.
And she takes it out of the refrigerator.
Yeah, refrigerate, and I'll heat it real slowly and stir it. And then I'll see if there's, no, I don't do that yet, no. Okay, I'll stir it, and then I'll put in about 3 or 4 cans of tomato sauce, the 8 ounce, depending on how it looks. First I'll put in 3 cans, and then an 8 ounce can of the Prego as well. And if it still looks like it could use a little more redness to the sauce, more tomato sauce looking, then I'll add the 4th tomato sauce.
Which is the Contadina tomato, so 8 ounce can.
Yeah.
And the Prego or the golden grain marinara,
Yeah,
whichever
that-
one you can use, either
Yeah.
one of those.
Yeah.
But what kind of color are you looking for?
Not too red, and yet if it's too dark, you feel like you could use that extra tomato sauce. It's kind of good in a way in that you're getting more sauce, you know, too. And if you feel it can handle it, it's okay. So just kind of use your judgment.
Any spices that you add to it?
Well, then we'll taste after we get the broth in. We'll taste it.
Well, tell me about the broth.
Okay, after the tomato sauce, all the tomato sauce that you put in cooks for a little while, and you stir, of course, and let it cook a bit, because that way,
How long is the bit about?
10, 15 minutes maybe.
And low heat?
Low heat, yeah. And then you see if there's any fat on the top that might come to the surface, and you want to get rid of that, you spoon it off very gently. And then you add, okay, I usually fix about 3 cups of bouillon water, and 2 of those cups are your reserved mushroom water. So I put in 3, another cup of water in there with the 2 cups of mushroom water. And so to that I'll add 1½ cubes of bouillon, beef bouillon.
Beef bouillon.
Yeah, because it's half of, you know, they say 1 cup to a bouillon, but that's too salty. So we take, with 3 cups, we put 1½ cubes of bouillon, and you boil that together. And then you stir that into your pot and see how the consistency is. You don't stir all of it in there at once, just stir maybe like 2 cups of it and see how it looks. If you think it can take more, you want the consistency of the sauce that you like, you know, not too thick, not too thin. And then see how that does. Let that cook for a little while and taste. See if it needs salt, pepper, maybe some nutmeg, maybe some allspice, maybe more pepper, maybe more, a little bit of salt, or maybe just a little more bouillon cube for flavor, or a little sugar. It depends on what you like in your sauce. So
Great.
that's it.
So that's what's done during the day of the dinner.
The day of the dinner.
So you'll be doing that tomorrow. That's great.
Then I get a box and have someone put the pot in the box, and away we go with the
Right.
raviolis.
So this kind of concludes the sauce portion of it. Hi, Mary.
Hi, John.
Here, we're finishing up the pasta sauce. As you recall, yesterday Mary basically brought the sauce up to a certain point, which was all the way up to being cooked, and she's going to open up the lid there and see, and she's warming. You put it in the refrigerator, and she's warming it up again this morning, and to do the last portion of it. She likes to do the adding of the tomato sauce and the marinara the day of the dinner, which today is Christmas. We're at the 25th of 2006, and in the pan beside it here is the broth that was made from the mushrooms.
Mushroom water, plus a cup of water to make 3 cups here.
Yes.
There was 2 cups of mushroom water and 1 cup of plain. And then I've got 1.5 bouillon cubes
Right.
in there.
And so she's checking the sauce now that she's warmed up, that was in the refrigerator, and what are you finding? You're going to need to add any moisture to it?
I don't think so. It's not fully heated yet, but it looks like there's enough moisture there. And so I think I'll just leave it so there won't be any fat to skim off the top. And if I add the butter, I think that would add more fat.
Right, but if it was dry, you would have done
I
what?
would have added a cube of butter
Uh-huh.
to it. So I'll see now when it's fully heated if I'll stay with that decision, and I think I will.
Great. So maybe now we can take a look at the tomato sauce that's going to go in. So over here we have the tomato sauce, contadina. There are 4 cans there. She's going to start out using 3 and to check on color. And here is the 2 marinaras that you can use. You can either use the Prego Italian sauce traditional or the golden grain marinara. 8 ounces only of those, either one of those. So is the tomato sauce that's going to be added to the mixture.
Okay.
Now after the sauce is warmed up, Mary's decided it does need a little bit of butter, so she's going to
I'm going to put in a cube.
so a whole stick
Yeah.
of butter.
Fourth of a pound. 1 cube. 1 cube.
I wish this was like Emil said, smell-o-vision, because the smell of this sauce cooking is very nice.
Yeah, it is. That's all the nice part about it, is the smell.
Go ahead. It looks like now the butter has melted in and
Just
combined.
blend it in.
And so it's got a little moisture there
Yeah,
around, if you can see.
it's just nice.
So that's getting ready.
Now, pretty quick, we'll put in the tomato sauce. I just wanted to be sure it's heated through. Let's see. Okie doke.
So what are you doing now, Mary?
Now I'm going to pour in all the tomato sauce.
How many cans?
I'm going to start with 3, and then 8 ounces of the Prego, or marinara, whichever you're using. I'll be sure I get it all in there. This one I took all the lid off because I'll use it to measure the Prego in here.
Those cans are what size?
I think they're 8 ounces. But this, I'm not sure.
I'll take a look there on the side there. We can take a look and check that out.
Okay.
Okay, what you've got there, Mary, is what?
This is the 8-ounce can, I think. Well, the can that the tomato sauce comes in, full of the Prego.
So she decided to use the Prego, and in addition to the 3 8-ounce cans of the Hunt's tomatoes, the Contadina tomato sauce,
Yeah, now
she measured in 8 ounces of the Prego sauce, and that's been added. So now what do you do?
Now I'm going to stir it and take a good look and see what I think. And I want to raise the gas a little now so I get a true picture. I have a feeling I might need that other can. See how it's sort of darkish yet? Well, let me get it all stirred.
In other words, you're not seeing enough red yet.
Yeah.
So that kind of determines whether she's going to add the 4th can of the Contadina.
Tomato sauce.
Gotcha.
And I might take a little sip to taste. Said I'm going to take a little taste before I put that extra tomato sauce in to be sure that the vegetables and all can handle, the flavor of all the vegetables and meat can handle another can of the tomato sauce, without diluting the flavor of the meat and the vegetables. A little taste here. Oh yeah, there's plenty of flavor there.
So what you going to decide to do?
Put in that last can of tomato sauce. And then we'll let this cook. See the color of that? It really needs another can. Okay. Now we'll give it a stir.
So the color's showing a little bit more red now.
Yeah, and as it cooks a little, it'll show even more. I'm going to get the bottom up a little. I'll let it bubble a little, and then I'm going to make sure it's warm, and then I'll put the lid on and turn it down a little, let it cook a bit.
How long is a bit?
Oh, just a bit until you feel the sauce is marinated, is blending with all the vegetables and the meat.
Got it. And in the meantime, you're warming up
my broth.
Your broth.
To add for the consistency.
The purpose of the broth is what?
To dilute it, to make it of the right consistency for pouring over your raviolis, how a sauce should be.
Got it. You know what? I think I'm going to try to give it a taste. Can I give it a taste?
Yeah. Marinara or the Prego in there to give it that little extra something to all the vegetables.
Well, I did take a taste, and I want to tell you, it's great, and it's such a collage of flavors, nothing dominant, but just a nice blend of Mama's pasta sauce. That's great. It's looking good.
The color is getting better, and yet it's not too red. Moira always said that's what she liked about my sauce, that it wasn't too red. Red tomato plain,
Got it.
Yeah.
Mary, the smell here reminds me of the kitchen at Mom's house when on Christmas Day when we would get all the family over, you know, all the uncles, Uncle Bert, Uncle John, Victorio, Angie,
And the laugh.
and Maria, and laugh, and everybody around the table.
And Grandma would make a baked potato for Victor.
Yep, for Victorio. He had to have his baked potato.
Yeah.
And so Mom really enjoyed that.
On top of everything else she had to do. Okay, now I think this is ready for the lid, and I'm going to let it cook just a bit and turn this down a little.
Okay. Mary's now testing the broth there that was made of the mushrooms reserved and bouillon cube to see if it's not too salty. If it is, she's going to be maybe diluting it a little bit more with some more water.
I think it's all right. Why don't you take a taste too, John?
Okay, let me try to do that. I did take a taste of the broth, and it's really got a nice mushroom taste to it, and it's not too salty. So, as Mary said, it's a go for that.
And now, see here? There's no fat coming up. When there's too much fat, it comes up over the tomato. But I don't see any.
And if it does do that, what do you do?
Well, then you take the spoon and gently try to pick it up, put it away, but I don't think we're going to have any, and that's great. I like it better when you don't have to do that. Okay. So I stirred it now, and I look at the color, and it's just right, just fine. Okay, did you get it?
Mm-hmm. And we have the broth heating up here.
Yeah, it's all heated, and
You're going to bring it to a boil?
I did.
Okay.
It's ready to go in just a minute here.
What are you doing now?
Going to add the broth.
How much are you going to add at a
Well,
time?
I'm going to stir and pour and a little and see how I go. See how it feels. 3 cans.
So you added the
3 cups, rather.
3 cups of the
broth
into there now.
Now I want to see what this looks like. Probably just a little thin now, but it thickens as it cooks. So I'll let that cook for a while, and then I'll check it again and see if it needs more or not. And now I'm going to taste it now, but I'll taste it when it gets through cooking, but just to see which direction it's going in. Yeah, it still has good flavor. Okay, good. Now we'll let it cook.
At what heat?
Low.
Low heat?
Mm-hmm.
And how long are you going to?
Well, let's see, I'll give it about 15 minutes, and in between I'll check and see how it goes.
Sounds good.
And somewhere I had heard or read too that in soups and in gravies you can overcook it, then it does take away from the flavor of the vegetables, whatever. So, okay, I'll clean this stuff up here.
Tell me what you're going to do now when it's all done now. You just set it aside for later today?
Yeah, I'll just leave it. Excuse me, leave it right here on the stove. And then Mark will come and help me put it in the car, in the box.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll carry it over and get my raviolis put in bags and my grated cheese and my spoon.
Right.
And that'll be the works.
Right, after it's been cooking for about 15 minutes here, a slow cook, and you taste it again, you find that you need to have some flavor to it.
All that.
What are the choices that you would add? What kind of things you would add?
Well, it depends if I think it needs more sugar or more saltiness. I don't know whether I would use salt or maybe a little more bouillon cube in there. Pepper, spices. If it doesn't have enough flavor, maybe I can add a few spices like allspice, nutmeg, but only if I have to. Not very often.
From what you've seen so far, it seems like it's pretty good flavor right now.
Pretty good flavor right now, but I'll see how it does when it's all cooked a while with the broth.
Great, great.
Yeah.
Okay, so this kind of pretty much wraps it up for the sauce, and we will, you know, the next process that was described when we made the pasta was the boiling of the water to cook the raviolis and how to do that. So, Mary, I think that's, I think got it. We'll do some edit.
That's a wrap.
That's a wrap. There you go, and thanks so much.
Thank you very much.
Have a good day, and Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Say bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And we've kind of already explained the boiling of the raviolis, so this kind of wraps up our session on how to make raviolis based on Grandma's famous Beltramo family recipe. So I appreciate Mary's time,
Oh, gosh, my pleasure.
and we enjoyed listening to you and you having shared all your knowledge of how to make this wonderful recipe. Bon appetit and arrivederci.
Well, thank you, John. for
Bye-bye.
doing this.